We are here today with A.R. Harlow, and I must say her book cover of We Must Find Her is absolutely beautiful. I really love your book cover. And the book premise sounds pretty fantastic too, but we'll leave that for you to describe in just a moment. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on at the moment, and then we'll get into the really awesome book.
Well, I am A.R. Harlow, and I guess I'm just a lot of things. I'm like one of those jacks of all trades, especially creative jacks of all trades, and definitely a master of none.
I mean, to be fair, it does take rather a long time to master things, like, your whole life. So I feel like that's acceptable.
Yeah, so I recently moved, like as in the past 9 months, to
Oh,
the
wow.
city. I grew up in the country, rural Missouri, so then I moved up to the St. Louis area, which is like a
Wow.
huge city.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. I mean, big change. Just a little bit.
Yeah, so it's been exciting but terrifying. I changed jobs, and I'm looking for something better, until my writing career kicks off. And in the meantime, I am a graduate student in a Master's of Counseling program.
Oh,
So
very cool. Very cool.
um, you know, uh, I spend a lot of time reading. I guess that's my biggest hobby, and one of my favorites is Kelly Blanchard and
Oh,
her Chronicles of Lorik.
oh yes, those are quite fun. Oh my, very dramatic.
Well, of course.
I mean, you sort of expect it after you get through book one. You just kind of expect the whole series to go, wow, I can't even.
Yeah, so that's what I spend a lot of time doing. Outside of that, I just, normal life, boyfriend, child, young child, work. I just stay busy, and I spend a lot of time, trying to write. I guess that's the best way to put it. I wouldn't say it's always writing, but trying to write.
I feel like if you can string a few sentences together, it counts. It may take you longer to get the book, but it counts.
Yeah. So outside of that, I can't really say that there's probably too much interesting about my day-to-day life. It is a normal life. I mean, I just recently picked up riding a motorcycle, if that counts for anything.
Wow, schmancy. Very exciting. And you probably still have good weather for it for, a while until the ice storms hit because St. Louis gets ice storms. Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, ice storms. Like today, it was kind of raining a little bit, and you really can't go out on a motorcycle in the rain, or at least it's not very advisable, especially when you're a newbie rider, and
Right.
that's me.
I know the feeling. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, not in the motorcycle thing, but the whole can't go out in the rain bit. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. As far as projects, I mean, there's always something in the fire, so to speak. Writing wise, I've got more book covers than I would care to admit in my backlog, and enough works in progress to go with them.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the fun part, isn't it?
I think so. As
Sure.
long as my boyfriend doesn't check out my report on how many book covers I've bought in the past 2 years.
Yeah, book covers. They're so pretty, though. I mean,
Well, yeah, and when you're in so many book cover groups, it's natural. Oh, look, there's a shiny new book cover to go with this shiny new idea.
oh yeah. See, I force myself to not get the book cover until it's with the editor because then, okay, I know I'm gonna go with this story. I'm gonna, publish it or whatever, and that way I don't have like 20 book covers lying around because I definitely would.
Yeah, I kind of wish I had followed that principle, but also at the same time, it is kind of exciting because I do have all these works in progress, and like, sometimes that's what I'll do when I'm at my day job is I'll take and work on like outlining or some basic scenes for one of the book covers, and it's like, okay, I am still using it, just not as fast as I planned on it.
Sure, sure.
To be honest, I probably have enough book covers that even if I wrote a book every month, I wouldn't run out for at least 2 years.
I like that. That's fun. Okay, so you better tell us then about the book that you've got out, so then we can get into all of the myriad of projects ongoing.
Okay, so I mean, We Must Find Her is definitely not your typical fantasy story. I
Oh,
would say that it defies genre limits because it doesn't fall into the typical fantasy with magic and schools, because it does like largely take place, like starts at a magic school,
okay, okay.
but it's not your typical follow this young person through the troubles of teenage drama while they learn magic. It's actually about a couple who is searching for their missing daughter.
Ah, oh, oh, how interesting. So it's sort of like, oh gosh, like detective story slash thriller mixed with Magic Academy type thing, but completely, oh, ooh, fun.
Yeah. Um, and I guess that's the best way to describe it, because they are kind of like trying to be detectives. And, I wanted to go with something that would make it where magic doesn't solve everything, where they couldn't just like go, poof, okay, we found her. They've been searching for her for 3 years, and they've been looking for clues to find her. And this mysterious letter comes in to a cafe in the town that they live at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from this girl who's at this academy, or they assume a girl, but it's from this person at this academy. And she's looking for answers. And they don't know who this girl is. She leaves her identity a secret.
Uh-huh.
So they go on this, like one of those things where things just kind of fall into place. Like at that same time, they had been getting numerous offers from this school, because both of them have had very prestigious careers before their
Sure.
daughter was taken.
Sure. Very fun. Oh, I like that. I like that because you get the mix of genres there, and there's, yeah, ooh, fun. That's exciting. And now that is the first book in a series?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And how many more do you think you'll have for that one? Or do you know?
So the way it stands right now is there is supposed to be 5 of them.
Okay.
Now, I say that a little bit tentatively because there is room for it to expand as the story kind of morphs and takes on a life in books 3 through 5. There is room for it to maybe expand into another book, but I
Ooh,
would honestly say it will probably be done at 5.
okay. Okay. 5 is good. 5 is fun. And I want to ask you more, but I feel like I can't because there's a whole mystery thing involved, and that would involve spoilers, and we don't want to do that.
Now, I really don't want to, spoil it, Um, the way I look at it is it's a fantasy family drama.
Oh, I like that. That's a good description. And I haven't seen all that many in terms of like family drama stuff in the fantasy genre, so ooh, should be fun.
Yeah, and it's like there's the magic in the background, but it's
Sure.
is kind of like in the background. I guess that's what you could say about this series, is that even though there are magic elements and there's gonna be, typical hallmarks of fantasy, world building, spells, all of that.
Sure.
But it doesn't rely on magic to solve everything. A lot of it is character driven action and responses and their interactions with the world and their relationships with each other.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, sounds like huge amounts of fun. But then I am awfully fond of things that don't always follow the standard mold. So there we go. Okay, so that takes care of four of your potential works in progresses, works in progress. I don't know what the plural is for that, but that takes care of 4 of them. And now I believe there are 20 some odd more.
At least 20 some odd more that I'll take claim to right now.
Okay, do you have like bigger projects that you're focusing on, or are you just kind of dividing your time equally or relatively equally?
I kind of try to divide my time. Like I've been very dedicated since I published We Must Find Her to trying to complete book 2. But honestly, book 2 it's a struggle book because there's a lot in it that I can resonate with.
Mm.
It deals deeply also with, you know, traumatic experience and how people process it, and like, you know, mental illness and depression and things like that. And being that depression is something very close to me, I've been kind of stagnating and struggling in that book because I want to make it as real as possible, yet
Right.
it
Right.
just it's hard to write about something so personal to you, but it's pivotal to the character's journey.
Hmm. Yeah, that extra element of realism and connection is sometimes not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, so I found that book 2 has been far more challenging than book 1 to write. So
Mm.
I spent a lot of time working on that and reworking it. Like, I think I've started that one over at least 4 times since I started writing it right after the first book.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay.
So right now that one is sitting at probably about 60,000 words with the words I added in the past couple of weeks. So
Sure.
it's just right at the halfway point because I anticipate it'll be another 120,000 word book because
Oh,
that's what my books tend to average, is right in that 120 mark.
sure. Sure. Okay, interesting. All right, and then so you've got those, and are your other projects also fantasy, or are they different genres?
Um, you know, I would say most of them probably fall into the fantasy genre in some fashion or another
Sure.
because I kind of want them all in the same universe. Now, I've got one that's a steampunk.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, and I've got one that starts out as actually something that doesn't have very much fantasy in it at all. It's more just a two twins, and they've been shuffled around their whole life. They're, you know, one parent took one twin and moved to one state, one took the other twin and moved to another state, and they would get together for like major holidays, and that was all that they would see each other.
Mhm.
Well, suddenly during the summer, they're dropped off at their aunt's in some godforsaken little town and trying to adjust to doing things differently, going to a summer school program and all this other fun stuff, you know, normal teenager stuff. And the one of the lead characters, the girl, she's blind.
Mhm.
So her brother is kind of like this protector who kind of stays by her side and helps her through school and things like that. So that's a story that was actually my first NaNoWriMo novel.
Oh, okay. Fun. Yeah, more literary fiction almost.
Yeah. Now there is potential for that one to take a fantasy turn later, but it doesn't start that way.
Okay. Okay.
And I mean, I've got a couple that probably fall into the happily ever after fairy tale style, but
Oh.
I haven't really messed with those too much. I just got a cover. It was revealed to me, I guess, 2 days ago now for that series, and I am really excited to write that one because it's different. It doesn't have like your traditional, you know, protagonist, traditional cover or anything else. It's this really beautiful set, and it started off with a pre-made cover that I purchased last December,
Mhm.
and each cover is themed to the 4 seasons.
Uh,
So you've got the winter cover, the spring, summer, and fall, and it is a beautiful set. And I'm really looking forward to writing that one. I'm thinking that I'm going to write it in a different style than I've written my fantasy stuff.
oh. In what way?
I think that I might even go with a first person perspective because in my fantasy stuff, most of the time I use third.
Sure. Sure. Okay. So
So,
these are
um,
yeah, these are like fairy tale retellings, or are they just following the general structure of a fairy tale?
just kind of following the general structure of a little romantic fairy tale. I think these are going to be more like one of those little romances, little happily ever after story.
Sure.
It's going to have some fantasy tones and some other stuff, but I'm thinking that it's going to take in, you know, be different than the other books that I have. I mean, I've got tons of stuff that's, predominantly fantasy, going to deal with wars and, all that stuff. And I kind of like something a little bit lighter, a little bit different.
Yeah, well, variety always makes things interesting, especially sometimes you get too focused on the one style and the, one thing after another, and it becomes a little bit too familiar.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's just like during the pandemic, there was this person who made like a pandemic inspired cover with this character wearing a mask, and she had it for a great sale. And I commented and asked her whether or not I could reserve it until payday, and she allowed me to reserve it until payday. And I am so glad I got it because it is so different than my normal. Like, it's not fantasy. It's like almost a post-apocalyptic style or dystopian.
Oh. Ooh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, and I've actually been writing on that project on and off. I actually fleshed out an entire outline for it one day when I was just writing with my boyfriend, and so just wrote out this very loose outline, but still an outline, just something, these are the points I want to hit. So I've been really excited to write that one. It's so different. Like, I don't have to think about magic. I don't have to think about, staying within my own world building structure because I'm taking the real world and putting it as something like 20 years in the future, ravaged by the pandemic and the riots and all that other stuff. And this character trying to overcome this and overcome the losses that she suffered and turn things around.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that'll be very different, very exciting. Fun. Okay, so now you've said outlines. You outline all of your pieces?
So I kind of jump around on whether or not I outline or not. Some things, like my NaNoWriMo projects, when I decide I'm going to participate in one of the NaNoWriMo, whether it's the summer or during the fall, the traditional one, I will not outline it at all. I'll just jump straight in. Like, I will just log on to the computer after midnight on November 1st, and I will just start writing whatever idea comes into my head first. I don't have an idea of the characters. I don't have an idea of the setting, and I just write with abandon. And I found that can be incredibly successful to a degree. Now, sometimes I fizzle, and then I'll just jump to a new project and start on something different if it fizzles.
Sure. I can understand that. Oh, sorry, I'm about to be... My cat is being really helpful. Thank you, dear.
Oh, you got a pretty cat.
This is the Queen of the Universe, and she's currently just woken up from a nap, so she's decided that I need sitting upon. Thank you so much, my dear. That's really helpful. Anyways, yes. Ooh, okay, so NaNoWriMo. Jumping right in. Wow. That's both, like, impressive and a little bit terrifying, because usually people have an idea before they just start writing.
Yeah, for me, it does. I don't have any shortage of ideas. Like, they just come. Like, it's crazy. Like, being that I live so close to St. Louis, I mean, I live 30 minutes away from the downtown area. So, I mean, I live in a little town that's a little bit away from it, thankfully, but 30 minutes and I can see the arch. Less than that, actually, and I can see the Gateway Arch.
Oh,
well,
wow.
The other day, I was riding with my boyfriend to work, and I looked at the arch and I said, I wonder if anybody has ever written a story about the Gateway Arch being a portal to another dimension.
Oh.
And he just looked at me.
Oh.
And then
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, so I've kind of just, like, I wrote that down because I didn't want to forget it because, as authors, we tend to get scatterbrained with all the ideas and everything that we store in our brains. So we kind of forget those, like, brilliant moments, especially. Like, I can store a bunch of useless crap in my head and just remember it forever. But then when it comes down to this, like, really brilliant line that I thought of at 3 a.m, I'll wake up, I'll be like, now I know I thought of something really brilliant.
Yeah, those 3 a.m. ideas are a little problematic. I used to keep a notebook out so you could write down the ideas, but it ended up being unintelligible because, writing at 3 in the morning by
Yeah.
hand, not a thing.
Yeah, usually if I get one of those ideas anymore, I've learned to type it into my phone since my phone is so close to my bed anyhow. I'll just pick it up and I'll type it into the phone and then I'll just conk back out.
Yeah, but then you run into things like the autocorrect problem.
That is true, but I've actually learned how to tell what is autocorrected usually.
Oh, well, that's a useful talent. Gosh. Yeah, I need to work on that. Because you really don't want to know stories about pickles. I'm pretty sure. Just saying. Oh, yeah, what fun. All right, well, do you think you're going to do NaNoWriMo this year? In the fall one. I mean, the summer one's already, passed.
I plan to. I mean, that's the goal right now is that I'm going to. I always say that I'm going to. And some years I'm very successful in it. Now, most of the time I always hit 50K. Whether it's in one project or multiple, I always hit 50K somehow or another.
Sure.
Actually, the one year I had so many school papers due during the month of November that I tallied all them up and they by themselves equaled 50,000 words.
Oh.
So I just was able to do that, but I did write on some stories and I made some substantial progress.
Sure.
I planned to do the summer ones, but life just kind of happened and I wasn't able to.
This year, life has happened a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of life this year, and I'm not sure I'm fully cognizant of how much life has happened this year. Oh wow.
Yeah, so life happened with that. So I didn't really participate in them, and because of the pandemic and everything, writing has definitely been kind of slow. And there's been a lot of changes. I've had some losses. I lost a grandfather during the summer, and getting ready to lose somebody in my boyfriend's family, and just life happening like that too. Just how it rolls, and so that's been a little bit hard to deal with sometimes. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm working and sometimes I'm not, and that kind of happens too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes you need a break from writing anyways. I find that when things go a bit wonky, de-stressing with brain melting is useful, which then brings us to books because, books are always wonderful.
Yes, books are definitely always wonderful. I indulge in reading books a lot of the time, and then I also read a bunch of fan fiction.
Ah, any particular, okay, hold on. What's the word? I know words. Fandom. Because
Yes, Harry Potter.
Oh, oh, fun. Okay, very exciting. Very exciting. All right, now as far as books go, is there an author out there whose abilities you'd like to steal to make your own stuff, fantastic?
That would be. There are several. J.R.R. Tolkien is definitely one of them, except his procrastination habits I probably didn't need to inherit.
Yeah, he did have a particular skill.
But I just fall in love with it every time I watch or reread any of his stuff. It's just something inside of me that just lights up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, I would like to get J.K. Rowling's, level of success. That would be wonderful at this point, honestly.
I mean, yeah, pretty much, yeah. No question, that level of success. Although there are problems that come with that because, you have to deal with things like actual deadlines and stuff.
Yeah, deadlines and stuff. Yeah. I am definitely not as prolific as I used to be. There was one year I was particularly prolific with my writing, and it was during NaNoWriMo, and I wrote probably 80,000 words in less than 8 days. So it was I was able to pump out 10K a day or more. The one day I pumped out 20,000 words just because I just had a muse and I just went with it. And basically, all I need to do with that one book, actually, those two books that I wrote during that time and actually finished, like gave a beginning, a middle, and an end to, however loosely they were for a first draft. I just need to go through, fix errors, and just like start, you know, editing and adding stuff into it. But those could probably be ready in less than a couple of months' time if I sat down with those manuscripts and just worked on them.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so, but I missed that. That was in 2014 that I was able to pull that off, and I have not been able to be nearly as prolific since. Like, I wish I could still write a book in like 8 days. It was so thrilling to do that, and I've not been able to duplicate that.
I mean, that's very impressive, and I couldn't. The quickest I did was 19 days, and it needed a lot of work.
Oh, these need a lot of work, but still, it was just the fact that I could do it. I didn't even believe that I could. And it was at a very busy time in my life. At that time, I was pregnant with my toddler, my now toddler, you know.
Sure.
And I was married at the time, and I was in college at the time, and I was doing all sorts of like freelance yard work and stuff to make extra money before, before Christmas that year and whatnot. And it just, everything just worked out great. And I was able to write like that. And there have been times, even this year, where my life has not been nearly as busy as it was then. And it's like, I would open a Word document and go, okay, I can do this. I can write a book in just a few days' time because I've got all this time to myself. And I'd sit at the computer and I'd go, what are words?
Oh, no. No. Oh, that is the worst feeling. When it's like, okay, I've got the time. I know the ideas.
Exactly. And that's what it was like. And it's like, okay, I'm going to look at my outlines and I'm going to just throw a dart and I'm going to just write a scene from any part of the book. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself about starting at the beginning and writing, the character did this fantastic thing in line 1. I'm going to focus on, okay, I know these characters. I know what they should be doing. Let's just write something for fun. Let's take a word prompt and just do something with it. And then it's like, yeah, words aren't coming. So then I binged Netflix and slept.
I mean, to be fair, doing that is probably very useful for, decompressing and de-stressing and trying to reset your brain and whatnot, but so sad.
Absolutely. It was just like so much bummer to me that like my words wouldn't come because it's like, this is the perfect time. I'm off of work because at that time my client was in the hospital.
Oh.
So I was off of work for almost an entire month and it's like I should be getting like writing stuff done. But yeah, you would think that, with all that time that I would have gotten, de-stressed. But no, I sat there stressing about the fact that I was not writing. So it was very counterproductive or anti-productive because it's like, okay, this is a time that I can relax. No, I can't because I should be writing.
Oh, so sad. Writing should be like a wonderful thing. You get your story out. It's on your computer. I was going to say it's on paper, but on the computer, it exists. It's not just ideas floating around your head, but sometimes you need to take that step back and just kind of breathe a bit. Or binge Netflix. Perfectly acceptable, too. Because, then again, binging Netflix gets you story ideas.
Yes.
That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it.
I don't blame you.
Fun. Okay, so here's a writing type sort of like actual writing question. For people out there trying to get into the world of multiple projects going at once, because that's something that not everyone can do. I certainly can't. Are there traps to avoid?
Absolutely. just because you think of the new shiny idea does not mean that you should abandon your current project and go work on it. Like, you can make notes for it. I would strongly recommend, if you get this new idea while you're writing something, definitely make notes. Or
Mhm.
even if you're actively not writing something, make notes about the project. But I do find that a lot of times it is better to stick to one project because it is sometimes very hard to shift gears, especially if you only have a certain amount of hours to write in. Like, if
Mhm.
writing isn't your full-time job.
Mhm.
Like, if it's not your full-time job and you still have a family and a day job or school or whatever it is that you're chasing after all the rest of your time, and you
Mhm.
have like a certain number of hours or certain hour that you can write in, it can be very helpful to just focus on one project, because most of the time when you're writing, you reread at least the last passage of what you wrote. So that might be a page, it might be the whole chapter. Sometimes if you've stepped away for a while, you might be rereading the whole book up to that current point, so you can say, okay, I've hit these points and now I want to hit these points.
Mhm.
So it can be very daunting to try to shift gears from one book to another, to take and reread through, whether it's 1 page or 5 pages, whatever it is, to read through that and write like a page or two and then shift gears and go write on something else for a little bit. It
Mhm.
because you're doing the same process, and in multitasking you're actually losing some of your time and your focus.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But still, I mean, the urge to follow those shiny ideas is very strong.
Yeah, that's why I recommend definitely writing something down about those ideas. That way you remember them for later, because say you've written, whatever your target goal is, whether it's 500 words, 1,000 words, 2,000 words on your main project, there's nothing to say that if you have the time and the energy and the mojo still left, that you can't go write something on your other book.
Sure, sure. That makes perfect sense. It's just the focusing on the one project, and then if there's extra, well, energy being most of it at this point, extra energy, then you can focus on other projects. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
Yeah.
and sometimes you might need a break from your main book. Like with my second book of the series, I've Lost My Way. It's daunting to write at times. And so there have been days when I've just had to shift gears because I knew I wanted to write something, but nothing was coming for that story. So
Mm.
I just shifted gears. Sometimes I shift gears and I do something like a little prompt. Like, there have been times during this pandemic, with how stressful it's been, that I actually took a one of those prompt books. It's a pretty thick prompt book, and it's got like all these different things that you should include in the writing prompt.
Huh.
And like, one was like, your character is in a bar and you need to include these 5 words, like piano, crystal, and just, it had different words that you needed to include in it. And so it was a creative stretch, and I was able to write a little scene featuring some of my characters from back when they were younger.
Oh. Oh, that's useful, especially for, character development and world building.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you want to write short stories, like based around your books,
Mhm.
I mean, many authors do that, especially now. It's become a lot more popular now. So I find that I write little short stories, little snippets of their lives. And so even when I'm not actively writing on my project, sometimes I'm still developing it, because sometimes things come out about the characters that you didn't realize at first. Like, even after having written a book with them, there's still things that you don't necessarily know about them that just kind of come out in the writing process.
Yeah. And that is the fun part about getting to explore your characters is, oh, wait a second, I didn't know this about you. Where did this come from?
Exactly. And that can be so much of the fun of writing, because these things do come up. And I think that as authors, we should just let them kind of unfold without trying to force it, because sometimes people try to force their characters into these spots. And most authors that you talk to will say that their characters kind of run the show. And, I find that to be true, because sometimes you can try to force a character to do something and it just doesn't work. The writing for it doesn't flow very good, and then the reading when you're going back through it doesn't flow either. And
Hmm.
sometimes if you just let it unfold organically. The characters will surprise you with something, and then it's like, hey, that's much better than what I even originally wanted to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. No, it's, you have a plan, but sometimes things deviate, and it's exploration, and it's fun, and
Yeah.
many things to do, many stories to write, all the ideas. Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, it has been absolutely fantastic talking with you. I'm really excited to get to read your book. I'm should be very fun. I do love that cover. It's just so pretty.
Thank you. But this has been very fun.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, writing related or like completely out of left field?
Writing related, I would say for anybody out there who's struggling to just keep your eye on your goal. Just
Mm.
keep writing. You may hate your story, you may hate your characters right now, but it is totally going to be worth it when you're holding that finished product in your hand.
Yes. Yes. I love seeing the book. Oh, mm, mm. It's a wonderful feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, have a fantastic day. Go cause some trouble because it's Tuesday or whatever. It's Tuesday. Today is Tuesday.
Yes. It's Tuesday.
uh, it's Tuesday. Go cause trouble, etc., etc. Yes. Well, all the wonderful things. I think I need to give my brain a break.
Yeah.